Welcome to another day in the Matrix. Waters above crypto. I'm sending you all love and high vibrations to start out this week. I have a very important Gematria decode to share with you today, what I believe will be an enlightening video that exposes the way this code expresses itself, not only in the market, but on the world stage as a whole. So of course, after the decode, I'll jump into the charts of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP and do some technical analysis for this week ahead. And if you didn't tune into my last video or you are new here to the channel, first of all, welcome to the Wolf Pack. I greatly appreciate your support. Just wanted to update you on the release of my exit strategy blueprint, covering exactly how I plan to take profits on this crypto market over the next couple of years. I break down 8 different cryptocurrencies, teaching how I use Gematria and numerology to determine my exit targets on specific coins. This exit strategy blueprint has about 17 videos right now, and there will be 2 to 3 more videos added over the next week. It's available right now for 55 USD or on a 20% off discount for Patreon supporters. You could visit patreon.com/watersabov to see the memberships available there if you're interested for more exclusive content. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria Numerology and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow this community. And for those of you that want to learn how to do technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, you can join my Mastermind course. The link to my website can be found in the description box and in the pinned comment below for access to the Mastermind course. And I will also be leaving the link below to the exit strategy blueprint in the pinned comment. So with that being said, let's take the red pill. So I'm really excited to share this decode with you guys today. I think it's going to be a very eye-opening breakdown of what's going to be going on the world stage and how it's all tied in together. Some of you might remember my decode of the Super Bowl between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams, and how we actually determined the winner of that Super Bowl before that event happened. And we had a very key number that we were exposing before that Super Bowl event happened, which was the skull and bones number 223 and 322. So you're going to see that theme showing up in today's video, and I think it's going to be very important to take note of and how these number connections played out and why I was able to determine the negative aspect behind the tiger, again tied to the Cincinnati Bengals, the Bengal tiger, and why we were able to come to that conclusion that the Los Angeles Rams would win. And take note of the colors, the color scheme of the Rams, their uniform, for instance, and the colors of the Ukrainian flag. It's going to be a very comprehensive breakdown showing you how these exoteric rituals are essentially predictive programming to what's to come in the future. So just really quickly, we have our upcoming full moon on March 18th. We know these full moons are typically a bearish energy, basically plus or 5 days around a full moon. So 5 days before the full moon or 5 days after the full moon is typically when we get our micro cycle bottoms. So it's when the charts have their lowest moments and then they typically ramp up and move into the new moon. So the new moon being in very early April. That means that the bearish energy to be expected in this month was to come sooner. And I actually brought this up in earlier videos and at the end of some of the content I was releasing in February. I was breaking down how if we're going to get any bearish energy in the month of March, it's most likely going to be coming in a little bit earlier just because the new moon in April is like April 1st, April Fool's Day, which is really important. It's going to play a big role in how this all works. And of course, today is March 14th, which is the 314 day, which comes back to pi, but it's also reminding me of that number 14. And remember, the total score of the Super Bowl was 43 between both teams. That's the 14th prime number. What's April 1st? The date is written 4-1 or 1-4 internationally. So it's very important. This whole way of perceiving numbers will give you an edge on how this market operates. So this only thing to say about the full moon, that I have is it being the 77th day of the year. So this sevens is very big. We're currently in the year of Shemitah, which is the sabbatical year practiced in Judaism, and it plays a big role in the energy of the financial markets. Every 7 years, we have a really big change in economical structure or in legislature or war or something chaotic happens. Because remember, the people who are running this domain, the apex predators, their motto is Ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. And everything they do is as above, so below. It's all mirrored. It's all about time. It's all about trapping in you in the linear timeline. So that way we get stuck. We believe in these calendars. We get trapped in age, and they could control you indefinitely through these ideas. I mean, just one way of breaking this down, look at what happened during the pandemic. The whole world was essentially trapped into this idea and fear that they would pass away because of a germ. Okay? So this is a very powerful mind control tactic, getting people scared all the time. This is why they moved on from the pandemic to the next big thing, which is war. And this was all coded in, and it's very important that we see how these numbers play a role into this. So with that being said, this being the 77th day, that could be something to consider because it's tying back to Shemitah, which was Rosh Hashanah of 2021. And Shemitah doesn't end until Rosh Hashanah of 2022. So we're in the midst of it right now. We're kind of in that, in that center point, pivoting between the psyops, if you will. So the date that I'm personally interested in, again, around the full moon, is going to be March 20th. And this March 20th date is really interesting. It's the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, some people call it. And this is the 79th day of the year. And this is where our decode comes in. Okay. So September 7th, which is the start of Shemitah, the sabbatical year, is 7997. If you wrote this date internationally, it would be 79. So that 79 connection is massive, okay? We could see this will be the 79th day of the year, March 20th. And 79 ties back to Ukraine. You could see that right here with the English ordinal cipher, okay? And 79 also ties to gold. It's the 79th element on the periodic table, and you're going to see how this all comes into play. Gold being the sun, all right? So this right here, you can see 79 is the 22nd prime number, and we also have that 22 tied into Chaldean, okay? And why this is so important is because we're in Shemitah, and Shemitah is in the Hebrew year of 5782, which reduces down to 22. Also, gold, the Latin name is aurum, and it's abbreviated in this like ticker symbol, we could call it, as AU. And AU is giving us 22 in English ordinal, okay? So this is huge connection, but this gets even crazier, okay? Recently, we saw the gold price, the gold, spot gold essentially, which trades on the open market. It recently hit its local top on March 8th, okay? You could see that right there. If you just look at the bottom of my screen, you'll see the day of that top was on March 8th, okay? That is 3-8. So let me just show you really quickly. So if I was to turn this into an 8, you could see it says 3-8, and gold in Gematria equals 38. And this is even more proof. This date numerology was the 17. If you do standard date numerology, 3 plus 8 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, not counting the 0, obviously, you get 17. And gold in Chaldean equals 17. This was the day that it hit its top. And its top that it hit was $2,070, which you remove the zeros from 2070, you end up with 27. And 27 ties back to Jupiter in this code, and it's has a bunch more ties as well. But what's most important is you just seeing right there, you don't have to get fancy with this code. This was very simple. I typed in gold, and two most powerful ciphers for me are English ordinal and Chaldean, and you can see that we get 38, which is March 8th. We hit it, and we have confluence because of that 17. This was the date numerology of March 8th in 2022, giving us 17, and gold equals 17 in Chaldean. That was the date that it rallied into, and it stopped on that exact day and since has folded over, and now it's having a little bit of a back test of lower levels, which is ideal because the RSI started to get into overheated territory. And that's where, when we have TA and we combine TA with this code, technical analysis, we're able to actually see even more layers to this. And that's where we could really dial in and be able to determine how we're going to play this market. So, I mean, this is undeniable proof that this entire market, not just crypto, not just stocks, including precious metals, is ran by this code, Gematria Numerology, and astrological connections if you wanted to time it all. So I'm particularly interested in the 20th of March because it's the 79th day. And again, that 79 ties back to gold, 79th element on the periodic table, and it also ties back to Ukraine with 79 in English ordinal. And we could see that clear connection to 22. 79 is the 22nd prime. Chaldean is 22 in the word Ukraine. So I'm really interested in this bigger connection. One other date connection we can make is this date is 2 days after the full moon in Pisces, if you wanted to call it that. And then you have 2 days before Rosh Hashanah. So bear with me. This date is 2 days after the full moon on March 18th. This date is 2 days before the start of Shemitah, September 7th. 2 days before is the 5th. And if you look at this amount of days, when you measure this all together, is 196 days. Gold, the atomic mass, is 196. So this is an even bigger connection to all of this, okay? Now, let's go a little bit deeper. If you go 196 days after the official Rosh Hashanah, you're going to see it brings us to March 22nd. And this is where it all ties into that skull and bones connection. Remember, skull and bones is the order 322. And that date, March 22nd, is the 322 date. And I definitely urge everyone to go back to the video that I released before the Super Bowl happened, where you could see me basically talking about skull and bones, the number 322, the number 223. Remember the score of the last Super Bowl. It was 23-20. So if you were to stack the numbers on top of each other, where you have 20 above 23, or you were to stack it 23 above 22, when you read it, it's 223 or 322, like skull and bones. This is very powerful stuff, guys. Okay, so with that being said, this is definitely something interesting because this date numerology is 322. I mean, it's pretty blatant. And with this big 196 connection back to the start of Shemitah, again, coming back to gold, like we've been talking about this whole time, gold being the 79th element, gold being the 79th element, and that 79 equaling the 22nd prime, and that 22 coming back to this particular year, you can see even with the skull and bones logo, we have that 22 in there. This is definitely something to consider. So I like this big connection. One other connection I'll show you by the numbers is skull and crossbones. And you could see we got 223. Now it's literally showing you in the code because that's what this is. This is the skull and crossbones. That's their logo. And you see it's 322. And in Gematria, in English ordinal, it gives us 223. It's the mirror of that number, as above, so below. Now, this gets even deeper because you can see right here that this is the 61. That 61 is the 18th prime number. Okay, and that 18 is going to be very, very important because March 22nd is the 81st day of the year. As above, so below. The mirror of the 18. Okay, and this is another big connection to be made. This group of individuals, they call themselves the Brotherhood of Death, and death is Saturn. It's the Grim Reaper, right? So what's really important about this is death, who's the Grim Reaper, ties to the 13th tarot card in the deck, the Major Arcana. So death being the 13th tarot card, and this date numerology, standard date numerology of March 22nd is 13. And here's another connection. They also go by the name Order 322, and Order 322 in Gematria equals 67. And you could see right here, the date numerology, the way that I like to do my date numerology, is 67. This is the date numerology where you add double digits and you obviously don't count those zeros. So you're ending up with 67 when you add it up as such. I mean, this is mind blowing. How many more connections can you have here? So, I mean, we know that this Skull and Bones 322 and 223 number is nothing to sleep on because we were able to utilize it to determine the Super Bowl and how that turned out. Okay, so this is really just amazing. And remember, this is all tying back to gold, and gold giving us that 38. And another tie would be Russia, Ukraine giving us 38 Chaldean. This 38's really big, tied to gold. I just showed you how on March 8th, the 3/8 date, gold hit its local top, which wasn't even an all-time high. So they manipulated this to hit this particular price and then perfectly get stopped out on that particular date, and then it rolled over. It didn't even make a new all-time high. It's really amazing how the word manipulation, I use it through a lens of, it's deep. I'm not trying, it's no complaints, it has no emotion. It's legitimately designed as such. Or we're coded as humans, and humans just all felt an urge to go long on gold leading up to March 8th. I mean, however you want to slice it. I'm not really here to debate that. I'm just here to expose the code, and you guys could make that decision up for yourself, But this is undeniable proof of it all. So one other connection here that we could talk about, and I brought this up on my interview with Ani Osaro, so definitely check out my last interview with Ani. Now, Russia and Ukraine together gives you that 166, and that ties back to Twin Towers, okay? Because that's what they are. Russia is Yakin, and Ukraine is Boaz. It doesn't matter which is which. It's just that's what it is. One is the sun, one is the moon. This is all about duality, and duality controls this realm that we're in. It is controlling this matrix. And also you see Twin Towers gives you 43. That was the total score of the last Super Bowl. It was 43 between both teams, and that's the 14th prime number, and that ties back to LA Rams. You get 14 in Chaldean, and also Ram, you get 14, right? So this is all coded. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Now, one of the things to be saying about this particular date of March 22nd being the 81st day of the year, well, that comes back to the word ritual, 81. So think about that, guys. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that with 100% certainty we're going to have something big happen on this date. It's just something to keep in mind. It's funny how I said ritual with the 17 Chaldean exactly at the 17-minute mark of this video. So it's beautiful. Once you start dialing in and tapping into this code, it starts showing up in all these little patterns in your reality. So again, this could be big. One other thing to be saying about that 67, I was talking about how the date numerology here is 67, and order 2322 equals 67. Well, the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv, is also 67. So that ties to that 22. And again, if it's that 22, then that means it ties back to gold because 79 and the 22nd prime number. So this is where a lot of the action is happening, guys. And you see that 22, that's not by mistake. Ukraine equaling that 22. This is all tied in. So we have to pay attention to this because this is the ritual of the moment right now. And they're setting it up to go towards the end of Shemitah, which again, this connection to Shemitah with that 7-9 for September 7th and Ukraine, this is undeniable. This was absolutely predetermined, pre-planned to happen at this exact time. And how it's manifested itself through the markets is what's really fascinating. So again, I hope this decode was enlightening for everyone. Use these tools you're learning. Use this code. In my exit strategy blueprint, I'm literally exposing how to utilize this code. And I even give real examples of prior chart history in certain coins where you see an all-time high on a particular coin always matches up with the Gematria. So it's very powerful. And now you can see how many examples I've given since the start of year 2021 that are non-crypto related. I've given you the Gematria breakdowns of Metaverse, exactly why that had a huge tumble. And we remember what happened with that. So we did Metaverse, then we did the Los Angeles Rams and the connection to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's been amazing to start exposing some of these other things that are going on, but it's because this particular year is such an important year. Okay? There's a reason why the housing market crashed in 2007, 2008. There's a reason why the dot-com bubble in 9/11 happened during the Shemitah before that, and so on and so forth. Black Monday, the Great Depression, World Wars, they're all happening during this particular time frame. And we're living that right now. So this is why we have to pay attention. It's the most volatile time in economics and the most volatile time in being part of society. So we can't not take that seriously unless you're somebody who's, really asleep, which if you've made it this far through my video, you're probably not one of them. So with that being said, that's the decode for the day. Let's get into the charts of Bitcoin. We're going to go through the TA a little quicker because not much has changed in the market. We're really just kind of battling in this sideways consolidation range. Again, holding this 236 was pivotal. I told everyone on my last Red Pill episode, which I released yesterday. So by the way, anyone who becomes a Patreon supporter, you'll get access to my Red Pill episodes. We've done 50 of those podcasts so far, so it's amazing. We're coming up on 1 year of doing the Mastermind Community Patreon, so it's been really beautiful to see, how many coins we've covered. And I typically cover about 5 different altcoins in every podcast. So those of you that are interested in the TA and my interpretation of the charts, and you want to see more than just Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, that's a good opportunity for people that want some more exclusive content, that would like to see me covering other coins. In the last episode, we covered some really interesting ones, but one of which was definitely IOTA. I'm really interested in that coin, so I'm definitely going to be covering that more in the future and probably building some positions in that particular token as well. So with that being said, we're just coiling up in this sort of range. There's not a whole lot to report on, but what I can share is the ranges. So right here we have the closure lows that determined this uptrend, or the start of a uptrend at least, holding support around 3,700, which is right around that 236 fib. That's a very important level. We know that this 44,400 to the upside is battle zone. We've had basically a triple top at that level. It's really, really coiling up and trying to figure out a direction. One of the things that I brought up either in my last video that I shared or in I definitely talked about it in yesterday's podcast was this firmament dome that we were talking about, and how this outside, when we broke through this finally, you can see it was a local top at every single high. And then eventually when we had this bigger breakdown because of the eclipse, we went sideways. And then once we broke out of this firmament, we started to trade on the outside of it. Now we have here a second firmament dome, and you can see that we've had eclipse, and then we've actually went sideways into breaking out of the firmament. And now we had about 4 or 5 trading days on the outside. You could see that right there. And lately, we've actually been holding those levels. So it'd be interesting to see, because if I turn off all these drawing tools, you can see the way that it reacted was we had a wick back here from May 19th and a wick over here from June 22nd. And we filled in those wicks with the daily closes into this bear trap, and then had a complete springboard reaction up to what's called an automatic rally or automatic reaction when you do Wyckoff method. So this was a really amazing moment because it completely shook out all the bears. It shook out all the people that were panic selling at the bottom. It got them to FOMO back in. And then anyone who was here around, September or August month of my channel, you remember we called this slowdown on the exact day of Shemitah, Rosh Hashanah, which, going back to the beginning of the decode in today's video, we were talking about that day. So this day was really pivotal. I mean, if you take this day and go back 111 days, you get to May 19th dump. So this day was playing a pivot point in how the market was reacting, and I'm really interested to see moving forward how this is all going to go. So with that being said, the firmament dome analysis is very unique. It's absolutely been something that when we take that and we compare it with the moon phases, I mean, it's just undeniable. It's such a perfect and simple way of swing trading the market. You have every local bottom around a full moon and every local top around a new moon. And then this firmament dome has been able to kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what the peak resistance would be on highs. And again, you just have to be a little bit more savvy about some of these tools. It's very easy to to just go over here to the drawing tool and put curve, and you could just add in your firmament dome as needed. I've seen people in the community even playing around with them on smaller time frames. Like you could do one right here, for instance, and then I'll quickly move on. So you have right here, this dome could be flipped like that, and then boom, you have your resistance levels on your closures, and you could see how that works, and you could do it on a smaller time frame. So go ahead and have fun with that. That's something that I shared with the world about a year ago, and I've seen a lot of analysts adopt it and be influenced by it. So it's beautiful to see that some of this more, unique TA is making its rounds into some other people's analysis. But with that being said, from a price level, this is really just trapped between the 382, the 236. This is kind of a time where you're starting to see momentum oscillators reset. So RSI and MACD, just the basic ones, are starting to reset. And that's a good thing. You kind of want resets after massive volatility in the market, whether that be huge moves to the upside or bigger dumps to the downside. This is kind of the time to be cautious, though, because when it breaks, it's probably going to break a dramatic amount. So are we going to bear trap to the downside and fill out these wicks around 33K like we saw happen back here, and then have this react with a fake out? Or are we just kind of solidifying this local bottom at the local full moon, and now we're ready to just continue into the next new moon? And that would kind of be, we would anticipate the next price level to be 44,000, somewhere around early April due to the new moon. And then any breaks of 44,500, or just call it 45K to the upside, would be indicative of a price continuation into 50K very quickly, because there's basically thin air on this breakdown right here between 47 and here. But this little moment right there is something we've traded in the past. Okay, we have chart data around those levels. Where we're at right now is somewhere we've been needing to fill in. You can see right here from the top around January, when Bitcoin had its straight line breakout, we actually went up through this whole level that we're trading at right now in like a single candle. They announced that Tesla was purchasing Bitcoin, and it just went straight up. Then we didn't even trade through it on the dump of May 19th. So we filled it out a slight bit around Rosh Hashanah, but now we're really filling in that target level. So the upside between 65,000 and 50,000 has been filled twice. Now we're filling in that middle zone after we filled in the lower zone of 28K to like 35K, right? And any of you who pays attention to horizontal trading ranges, you could confirm what I'm saying. If you use a VPVR indicator as well, you're going to be able to see that you fill out these levels, and that's very good. So you could see the POC, point of control, sitting around 39K right now, which is basically exactly in line with the trading of Bitcoin right now. So that's another great tool for those premium users out there. So let me turn off these full moons and just go to the Ethereum chart and do some analysis on that. So again, we're just in a sideways range, and whatever breakout we have, we just have to look for price targets. So holding daily closes at 37 and then 35, and then on the upside, it's essentially just 44. Okay, a lot of drawing tools going on here, but it's essentially just showing you somewhat of a support level on this trend line, this red trend line at the bottom side. Going back to when ETH finally woke up in the Q1 of 2021, we could call it, broke out, back tested this level, had a nice clean W breakout to the first local top. After that, came down, had a nice clean W breakout to another rally to a slight all-time high, and then since has broken down. And what I just said about Bitcoin, how it's filling out that middle level, that's exactly what Ethereum is doing now. It's filling out this middle trading level between the 236 and the 382 and the 0.5 fib. Now that's very ideal. That's showing that this asset in particular is becoming a little bit more mature, and it's filling out its trading ranges, and it's kind of solidifying this $2,500, $2,000 range. And the next move would be solidifying the $3,000 range and holding that level. That would be above the 0.5 fib, moving into the golden pocket. And we see that this yellow trend line right here, if I was to turn this into an area chart, you're going to see that was our local top in May, then another top in September. And once we couldn't hold it after breaking out into this month of November, we had a larger consolidation. So this yellow trend line, the level it's sort of converging with is right around that golden pocket, that 702 Fibonacci level. So something to keep in mind out there for people. If we do break above this again, That'll be 2 full breakouts, and I would anticipate the next big move to the upside would probably be the 1618, but we can't talk about that necessarily right now. That's kind of getting ahead of ourselves. First, we have to have closures above 3,270, so around this level, and ideally even 3,400. Like, getting back into the golden pocket is really ideal for this stage in this trading range we're getting, which in Wyckoff method is essentially a reaccumulation after decline. It would not be a redistribution chart until you start breaking the lows at like 1700. So this trend line so far has been playing really solid, and it is in log chart. So for those of you that are drawing this trend line, you want to be in log to actually analyze it the way I am. And we're just coiling up. We're about like 75% through to the apex of this pattern, which you can see the apex comes in around literally Rosh Hashanah, the end of Shemitah. And we know Ethereum is very tied to Judaism by the code because we were exposing that all last year. So Shemitah is massive when it comes to the behavior of this particular coin. Now, with that being said, upside level to kind of break would be that 3,000 level showing strength, and then we would have somewhat of a W formation. And then on the downside, it's kind of weird. I mean, honestly, it would be just holding the 236. I would like to consider the 236 as more important than this particular red trend line. I never really analyze everything fully just straight from trend lines. That's not a very sophisticated way to analyze a market, especially with cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency is extremely volatile. So trend lines do help as a little bit of a guideline, but only when you already have a basis when it comes to knowledge and utility of the applications of indicators, chart structure. Maybe you could do Wyckoff method, etc. What I'm trying to say is I would use trend lines as like a tertiary aspect of your analysis, whilst most new investors or new people to TA are using it as like the first, most important priority of their TA. I'm trying to let you know that that's not how it works, but there are instances where you could utilize it. Now, XRP, same story. This is actually a bearish fib retrace, so I pulled the fib in reverse from this swing low here to this yearly high back in April, and you can see that it's been holding this 786 level on lots of daily closures. So this to me could look like an inverse head and shoulders, where you have your left shoulder, head, right shoulder potentially in formation, and then anything above like 90 cents is where you would be looking for that measured move, which I suspect will bring you into like 140 level. On the downside, holding this 786 is ideal. Otherwise, you're going to come down into this next trading range around 64, 62, 63 cents. That range is possible if we do have a more than like an unusually bearish full moon this time around. So we have to see how this plays, because again, we have this 322 ritual coming up soon. It's potentially going to be playing its role in the market, or it could be extremely bullish. We might have our bearish energy in over this past weekend, again, because yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of the March 13th, Friday the 13th crash lows of the pandemic back in 2020. The pandemic was officially recognized as one by the World Health Organization on March 11th of 2020. So we've been a full 2-year anniversary in the 222 year. Part of that tells me we're sort of out of the weeds for downside, because we've made it through that 2-year anniversary. And to be a little bit more sophisticated, the 13th of March would be 2 years and 2 days, which is 22 after the start of the pandemic. So, to me, the fact that we've held support and we have been slightly bearish perfectly around this full moon, which is 4 days away, this is kind of telling me, I'm optimistic. I'm more optimistic for bullish continuation, or at least holding levels, rather than having just complete collapse, But again, I'm very open-minded to that as a possibility around eclipses. And we don't have an eclipse until next month at the very end, April 30th. The big eclipse that I'm paying attention to is actually May 15th, and that for me is more bullish than the November eclipse. That one I feel has some bearish quality to it. So I'm gonna wrap this up here again with the levels. It's very decisive on Bitcoin, where Bitcoin wants to hold. XRP has actually been showing strength comparatively to a lot of other altcoins. Like, it's actually holding its horizontal trading range, as opposed to something like Cardano, which is just fallen out the bottom. So XRP is actually looking solid, and that's because it's a suppressed coin. And I've said this many, many times. The more suppressed a coin is in the overall cycle, the more kind of, I give it more attention. It's the stuff that's extremely bullish and already hit massive ROI on the charts is the stuff that I don't pay attention to. You kind of want to be in stuff when it's boring and no one cares about it before it goes and flips bullish. So that's kind of like my thesis on XRP at the moment. It's holding support. It's back tested the 888 multiple times now, which is this fib level, and it's holding comparatively to a lot of other coins, which is showing that there's a slight rotation out of some coins into XRP and perhaps other ISO 20022 coins. So I'm going to wrap up this video now. Lots of information. Definitely rewatch that decode in the beginning. And again, anyone who's interested in that exit strategy blueprint, it is officially available at watersabovecrypto.com/exit strategy. If you want to know more about the videos, you can just go down here to overview. You could click on this and you'll see every video title that's listed. And then again, price being 55 USD and $11 off, about a 20% discount for people who join my Patreon membership. So I appreciate every single one of you. Wishing you a beautiful rest of your day. Much love.